As a NASCAR driver, Dale Earnhardt was known as the Intimidator because of how rough he was on the track. He didn't just fall into racing, he was practically born with a steering wheel in his hands. Born on April 29, 1951, in North Carolina, Earnhardt's father was a legendary short-track driver in his own right. With racing in his blood, it was only a matter of time before he took to the track himself, even if he didn't have a license. When he was 12, he secretly drove his father's car, and it wasn't just for fun. It is said that Art almost won a race against one of his father's hardest competitors. There were still some problems on the way to NASCAR fame for Dale, like any worried parent would. There were times when Ralph Earnhardt didn't want his son to follow in his tire tracks. Even though racing was dangerous, Hart chose to drop out of high school to do it full-time, and his father had no choice but to let him. Ralph knew that his son had a need for speed, and it wasn't just in racing cars. Dale liked to live life quickly, both on and off the racetrack. That's why it wasn't a surprise when he married his first wife Latine Brown in 1968, when he was only 17. A year later, they had a son named Kerry. But before the checkered flag could go up, his fast-paced marriage was already in trouble. Getting married young against their parents' advice may sound like a true love story, but it was more of a mare. Earnhardt's marriage to Brown lasted about as long as the average NASCAR pit stop. By 1970 it was over and the pair went their separate ways. Just 1 year after breaking things off with Brown, Dale Earnhardt swerved his way into another marriage. This time he tied the knot to another racetrack brat, Brenda G., who was the daughter of NASCAR car builder Robert G. In just 3 short years they had 2 children, daughter Kel and son Dale Earnhardt Jr. But you could blink and miss the rest of this marriage. Once again Earnhardt managed to keep the details of his second marriage out of the press, but as his racing career was just about to take off he wouldn't be able to keep his private life private for much longer. Turns out the Earnhardts weren't just a family of racers, they were rivals. In 1972 Earnhardt faced off against his father Ralph on the track at Metrolina Motor Speedway in Charlotte. The race featured V8 and smaller V6 cars and Dale just managed to make the cut. It was the one and only time that father and son raced against each other, but it was a race that no one would ever forget. Despite driving a smaller, less powerful car, it seemed like Dale was racing like he was crazy, but Ralph's experience finally caught up with him. Dale saw his father coming up behind him and, being the polite son he is, moved over to let his father pass, but he was in for a surprise. Ralph didn't take the chance. Instead, he stayed close behind his son and pushed him to his limits. Dale Earnhardt would remember for the rest of his life what happened next. Ralph tried to pass but accidentally hit his car from behind. Ralph was following his son toward the infield and speeding up, hit the back of Dale's car a second time. Dale thought Ralph was trying to signal that he wanted to take the outside line to pass him. Ralph wasn't just beating him up for fun, he was teaching him something important. In the end, Ralph beat his son and won the race, but Dale had learned his lesson. It's very clear that you won't move for anyone, not even your own flesh and blood. Ralph was as tough a father as he was a racer, and he never went easy on his son. Tragically, in 1973, just 1 year after their iconic race, Ralph died of a heart attack at just 45 years old. His sudden loss left Dale Earnhardt spinning out, and it took him years to feel like he had finally proven himself to the man who had taught him everything. When Dale joined Rod Arland Racing in 1979, he wasn't the only rookie with potential, but by the end of the season he had already set himself apart with 1 win at Bristol, 4 poles and 17 top 10 finishes. He clinched the Rookie of the Year honors even after missing 4 races due to a broken collarbone. 1982 marked a low point for Dale Earnhardt. Although he snagged a win at Darlington, aka the track too tough to tame, he suffered some major setbacks throughout the season. His aggressive driving style saw him crash out of 18 of the 30 races he competed in, including a crash at Pocono Raceway that left him with a broken music Kneecap. By 1987 he had earned a reputation as a fearless and some would say reckless driver, but it was during the '87 Winston All-Star race that he truly became the Intimidator. Forced into the infield grass while defending his lead, Earnhardt didn't flinch. He gripped the steering wheel and deftly made his way back onto the track, all while holding his lead. Still got the lead. Incredible. His driving skills became the stuff of meth. NASCAR fans called Earnhardt's move at the Winston All-Star race the pass in the grass. Interestingly, didn't actually pass anyone during that famous move, but his dominance on the track made him a NASCAR legend very quickly. Many people liked Earnhardt's aggressive driving, but he also had some enemies. After the Winston in 1987, an angry fan wrote a letter to the president of NASCAR threatening Hart's life. The FBI took the fan's warning seriously and put security around Hart at his next 3 races. Luckily, nothing bad happened, and the FBI ended their investigation. However, the incident showed how divisive Earnhardt's relentless drive to win was. On the track, Earnhardt's aggressive style caused many rivalries and fins but also solidified his reputation. The 1986 Daytona 500 looked like Earnhardt's race to win as he fought Jeff Bodine in the exciting car duel. But with only 3 laps to go, Earnhardt had to make a quick stop in the pits, and just as he roared back onto the track, he burned a piston, making it easy for Bodine to win. This heartbreaking loss started what many people would call Earnhardt's Daytona 500 curse. The curse continued at the 1990 race, when he had a huge 40C lead and was leading the pack with just a few laps to go. Hart looked unstoppable as he sped through turn 3 of the track, but his tire blew out and he fell from first place to 5th. The next year, Hart went into the Daytona 500 with renewed hope of finally breaking his curse. Early in the race, his car hit a seagull, but the impact did more than just rattle the windshield. He was in a strong place with only 6 laps to go in the race, but it caused problems with the temperature of the car. It goes without saying that Earnhardt didn't give up, but his car did. With only 2 laps to go, and Irving in his sights, his car spun out, leaving him once again so close but so far away. Getting through the Daytona 500 for Dale Hart, the 1992 season was another rough one. He did manage to pull off a big win at the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, but that was the only good thing about a season in which he finished a career-low 12th in points and had 3 last-place finishes. Hart had a frustrating history at the Great American Race. In the 1903 Daytona 500, he was in the lead with just 2 laps to go, but Dale Jarrett pulled ahead of him on the final lap, denying him victory. This was the 4th time Hart had led the Daytona 500 in the last few laps and lost the race. The curse continued to haunt him in 1996 and 1997, but with 12 laps to go in the 1997 race, it was clear he was losing his patience. Earnhardt was in a multi-car rollover accident. As medics tried to get him to safety, he noticed that his car was still working. What he did next was unforgettable. He jumped out of the ambulance and drove his broken-down car to a 31st place finish. But he didn't get away with all of his mistakes. Music. Crash at Talladega wrecks. Another race that almost went badly was the 1996 Die Hard 500 at Talladega. Hart was second in points and trying to win his 8th season title when he was involved in yet another huge crash. This time, Ernie Irvan lost control of his car and hit Sterling Marlin, causing a lot of damage to the track. The accident sent Earnhardt's 3rd car flying off the track. When Everly hit the wall at almost 200 miles per hour, his fans could only hold their breath and hope that he would make it through. Since most sports stations didn't show the race live, most NASCAR fans found out about Hart's dramatic accident hours later on the night sports news shows. The crash was so bad that it looked like someone had died, and Earnhardt's friends were afraid that the worst had happened. The accident recording showed the medical team rushing toward Earnhardt's badly damaged car, just as it looked like he had died in the crash. Miraculously, the brave racer climbed out of the wreckage and waved to the crowd, even though he had broken his collarbone, sternum, and shoulder blade. He also refused to get medical help right away. The scary crash that killed Dale in 1996 and the similar crash that killed Russell Phillips at Charlotte LED NASCAR did something about it. They made the Earnhardt bar, a metal brace that is meant to strengthen race cars' roofs and windshields. This safety in the years that followed, innovation probably saved a lot of lives, but it couldn't save the life of its namesake, who had so many broken bones. Fans of Earnhardt thought he would be in charge for the rest of the season, but they were wrong. He couldn't stay out of the driver's seat, and after the first pit stop the next week at Indianapolis, he had to hand over the keys to one of his co-workers. '97 was a tough year for Earnhardt, but the lowest point came at the Mountain Dew Southern 500 in Darlington. Early in the race, for unknown reasons, he blacked out and crashed into the wall disoriented. It took him several laps to safely find his pit stall. He later revealed that he had been suffering from double vision on February 15, 1998. After 2 decades of close calls and near misses, Dale Earnhardt finally did the unthinkable. He broke his Daytona 500 curse in his 20th attempt. He crossed the finish line. First, his celebration became one of the most iconic moments in NASCAR history. His long-awaited Daytona 500 victory sparked an unprecedented display of respect as he drove down the Pittsburgh road. Every crew member from every team lined up to shake his hand, a tribute usually reserved for only the most revered drivers. Then, in a move that would go down in NASCAR history, he spun his tires in the infield, leaving tire tracks in the grass shaped like a giant number 3 in the 2000 season. Earnhardt made a stunning resurgence, surprising many who thought his best years were behind him. Thanks to Nick's surgery that fixed a lingering injury from his '96 Talladega crash, he was back in top form. He edged out Bobby Leben by just 0.01 seconds at Atlanta and claimed 17 possessions in the final 4 laps to snatch victory at Talladega. The Intimidator seemed to still be in control, but not for long. Dale Earnhardt was sure that he had broken the curse before the 2001 Daytona 500, but tragically, it would be his last race. On the last turn of the last lap, Earnhardt made light contact with Sterling Marlin, which caused him to slide off course. As his car sped out of control, he collided with Ken Scheider. The second impact sent Scheider headfirst into the retaining wall at nearly 160 miles per hour. The impact was so strong that it tore off his right wheel. Snapping the hood pins broke the hood and made it hit the windshield several times. It was pretty clear what would happen. I guess he's okay. Earnhardt's son from his second marriage, Dale Jr., raced to second place just as his father's wrecked car slid off the track and into the infield grass. His car and Scheider's came to a stop near the end of turn 4. Instead of cheering as the race ended, there was eerie silence as the reality of the crash set in. Scheider got out of his car without getting hurt and ran to Hart, but what he saw was not at all reassuring. Earnhardt's window net was still up, and when Scheider pulled it down, he saw a terrible sight. He frantically called for help to the paramedics who were just arriving at the scene of the crash, but by the time Hart got to the hospital, he already knew the truth. What everyone already knew was proven by the medics. Dale Earnhardt had died in the crash. They told his official cause of death was a broken skull from blunt force injuries. As NASCAR officials started to look into what really happened, they made a very scary discovery. In Earnhardt's car, they said the left lap belt on the seatbelt harness had broken, which could be why Earnhardt's chin hit the steering wheel and fractured his skull. The tragedy and mystery grew from there. After the accident, the maker of the seatbelt got death threats. They said that Earnhardt and his team had installed it illegally to make Dale more comfortable. A sports writer even tried to get the autopsy records and photos. In the end, the probe that followed showed that the failure of the belt hadn't been a major cause of the accident. Bill Earnhardt left an unmatched NASCAR legacy, and not just because he won 100 cups. While he never really got away from his Daytona 500 curse, his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. did. He won the race twice, continuing the Earnhardt family tradition that you don't give up for anyone, not even your own family. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe for more videos.